GTTN is introducing our testimonial Eleanor Dormott. She's a researcher focusing on wood DNA identification and forensics at the University of Adelaide in Australia. Eleanor, your research is focusing on the application of DNA identification technologies, but you also do ad hoc forensic casework. What are the newest developments in the field of timber identification?
So on a practical level, working within academia, there are different researchers all over the world who are working to increase the capacity that we have practically to identify. So looking at including new species, improving techniques, making them faster, making them cheaper. But I think more importantly than that, what we've seen over the last few years has been an increase in the international appreciation and understanding of the problems that we face with respect to illegal logging and the role that timber identification can play in helping to combat that. So we've seen increased interest from international organisations like the UNODC. CITES has listed all these additional timbers and passed some decisions around improving access to reference collections, and events like the Forest Legality Week that we're here at now. So I think that we're seeing a change in, we're seeing a tide coming through where people are beginning to really appreciate the importance of this, and this hopefully through initiatives like the GTTN can translate into some real action on the issue and broader applications of these technologies.
What are the current technological innovations in the field of timber identification tools?
Well, I work mainly on DNA, but I've got colleagues who follow these other disciplines. I guess from my perspective, the improvements that we're working on is looking at being able to improve how we can get the DNA from the timber, because that's the hardest bit really. Timber is an old and dead material in many cases, and so being able to get usable DNA from that is challenging, but we've had some good improvements with that over the last few years. So and then additionally, I guess we work on we have to find the genetic markers that can tell us the information that we want, so whether it's what species it is or where it comes from. So working to really improve those markers to get them more efficient, make them work in more cases, and to find those which can identify more species and more regions is really where we're going. If we think about the number of species that there are out there, thousands and thousands of different species, so it's really a never-ending piece of work, ongoing work to collect those reference data and analyze them with these new tools that we have.
What would you, as a scientist, like to come out as a result of the GTTN Working Group on Standardization?
So I think we're at a really critical time here where we've reached a kind of critical mass in terms of what these techniques can do, and they've grown up independently from the various scientific disciplines. So DNA analysis typically, in my case, my PhD was using these techniques, but looking at invasive species, for example, or just understanding genetic resources in natural populations. But now we're seeing that we can take these skills that we have and we can apply them to this issue of illegal logging, and that's the same for these other tools as well. So looking at the wood chemistry, looking at the anatomy of the wood, these are all disciplines that started out in a kind of purely academic sense, and then it's become increasingly clear that they can have an important role in identifying timber in trade and helping to prevent illegal logging. So we've got these different disciplines that have previously been quite separate, and we're now coming together, and I think we've got this opportunity to really form a cohesive community with shared approaches, shared goals, a shared understanding of what we can do and how we can do it, which can then kind of provide this cohesive service to industry and to governments to help with the problem of illegal logging. So the standardization is around how do we sample, how do we put controls in to make sure that the results that we've got are valid, how do we share our data effectively. So Yeah, I would hope that we can come out of this process of standardization with a set of I don't know what form they'll take yet, a set of guides in some way that will have buy-in from all of these different scientific disciplines, but that can then act as a roadmap for us really on how we move forward as a kind of cohesive discipline of forensic timber identification.